Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Makeda Voletta, also known as the Body Scientist, and I am currently live on my IG page, the_body_scientist, and I will be recording this video and reposting it to my YouTube page, the Body Scientist 81. In case you are unfamiliar with me, I have a background in exercise and sports science and nutrition science, both on an undergraduate and a graduate level. I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach. I'm a sports nutritionist. I'm also a birth worker and a student of the dances of the African diaspora, okay? And I've committed my life to studying all the ways that we can take our body to its highest level, okay? Also, there are differences between men and women, and I have a special passion for women and women's health, although I also work with men just as much, but most of the research is done on men. And with women, you know, the fact that we have a whole other doctor for our reproductive organs says a lot. We have a uterus, and a lot comes with that. And so today, I want to talk about my work with Nani Eggs. Some people know them as Yoni Eggs or Jade Eggs. I started working with them in 2005. And I started teaching women in 2007. I started teaching a class called Sensual Strength Training, okay? And my class, Sensual Strength Training, that I started teaching in 2007, started teaching in New York City, but I've taught workshops in Chicago, and Atlanta, and Oakland, and LA, in Miami, taught women in Costa Rica. I've taught workshops a lot in Detroit, DC, Baltimore. I've taught workshops a lot of places, right? And I've learned so much from teaching women. I remember in 2000, whatever happened to me between 2005 and 2007, I felt like was so great that I had to teach other women. And at that time, I just worked with the eggs on and off very briefly. Like I wasn't doing exercises like what I teach women now. I just put it in, wear it for a couple days. I might forget about it for a couple weeks, put it back in. So it was like inconsistent, but on and off for 2 years. And what I did notice was that my menstrual cycles became lighter. You know, I never had like a horrible, they were kind of heavy, okay? And my mother had a full hysterectomy in 1999. And I remember seeing that and not wanting to go through that. So many black women have really bad fibroids, okay? And there's something else that I also know a lot about and will do some videos on in the future. But a lot of Afro-American women have really bad fibroids, and you know that can lead to really painful and heavy menstrual cycles. That's why my mom ended up having a hysterectomy. So I know that for me, my cycles became lighter. I remember my orgasms became more intense, even though I didn't have a problem with orgasms to begin with. But because of my background in exercise and sports science, I thought, oh yeah, like with all muscles, you want to strengthen them, okay? And then my background in dance makes me understand the importance of muscle control. It's not just about strong muscles, but it's also about having fluid muscles that have elasticity and a little bit of flexibility and control, rhythmic control, right? So the eggs made sense to me. 2007, I started teaching women, and from that point on, I learned a lot just from all the different things. The eggs, if you don't know about them, I'll show you one. This is a rose quartz one, okay? And in case you're unfamiliar, women work with them vaginally. There are other ways to work with them as well, because I have had clients that have had really bad sexual trauma, and I've noticed that the women that have a hard time putting the eggs inside of them, a lot of times there's really bad sexual trauma there, okay? And it's really important to work on dissolving that. I feel like working with the eggs is one of the most effective way that I've come across. And so much so that I'm thinking about developing a class specifically for women with sexual trauma. Even though my other classes I feel like still help women with sexual trauma, but I'm thinking of doing a class that targets that, okay? When I went through my doula training in 2010, I remember my teacher told us to read a book called When Survivors Give Birth. And she talked about how women with sexual trauma often have problems opening up in labor, okay? And I remember at the time, this is 2010, so at this point I had been teaching my class for 3 years, and I've been working with egg for 5 years. And I knew that it could help women with childbirth, with preparing for and recovering from, but I was thinking about it from strictly a strength standpoint. Like, childbirth is like, going into a football game. You don't go into a college football game without ever having gone to the weight room or going to practice and training. If you just got up off the sofa, never went to the gym, never went to the weight room, and just went into a football game, you probably way more likely to get hurt and have a lot harder time recovering than somebody who prepared for it and is in better shape. Same thing is true with childbirth, okay? And I noticed as a young trainer, when I was like 20, 21, and I'm working at Equinox in New York City, and I had clients, female clients who had been college athletes, and they all talked about how easy birth was and how easily they recovered. So I noticed then that, being in good shape really does help. But when I went through my doula training, I learned about women with sexual trauma, how they often have problems opening up in childbirth, which can then lead to, C-sections. And I've thought, oh my gosh, like this egg work, there's another way that these eggs help women in childbirth, is that if a woman has sexual trauma, which a lot of women do, unfortunately, if she starts to dissolve that before she gets pregnant and brings life into this world, then it's another way it helps prepare a woman for childbirth. Somebody said the day before the baby was due, they were told they had to have a C-section because he was breached. That's another thing I want to talk about. There's so many. I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on women in pregnancy, because there's a lot of all of that. The breech babies, the C-sections, all of that's unnecessary. Old school midwives and doctors knew how to turn breech babies or deliver breech babies, okay? And the due dates are not even accurate. They're a guess. Only like 3% of babies are born on their due date. That's the problem with the medical industry. And I could go into a whole other thing with that, and I will in another video. I hope that pregnancy turned out okay, though. I have had clients who have had C-sections, and then they got pregnant again, and they wanted to have a vaginal birth. In this country, they try to make it illegal, okay? Like, if you've had a C-section, then you have to keep having C-sections. I actually was listening to an interview that Little Mo was doing, and she said that she had 5 C-sections. 5, okay? That's really crazy and really dangerous and can damn near kill a woman, because 1 C-section is a major surgery. 2 is like, whoa. When you start getting 3, 4, 5, it can definitely end up taking your life, okay? And cause a lot of damage. And there's a lot that I've also learned about recovering from C-sections. I don't know, those of you who follow me, if you know, there's a woman that I studied with in Long Beach, California, named Puanani, also known as Indigimama. You can find her on YouTube and Instagram, and I highly recommend that you do. I don't know anybody who is as knowledgeable as her with the things that she does. She's a legit herbalist, okay, because true herbalists can communicate with plants. You can't just learn it from books. It's ancestral knowledge, and it's also, part being able to communicate with plants, okay? She's definitely that. She's also what I call a womb chiropractor, okay? So she practices womb massage for Mesoamerican traditions, where, making sure a woman's uterus is perfectly centered. Because a lot of women have uteruses that are tilted to the left or tilted to the right or tilted back. And doctors have always said that that's normal, but it's not normal. It's not okay. Okay, there's a lot of health consequences that can happen to women whose uterus is not perfectly centered. And I have a video about that on this page. I will try to post it below. You need help with the diastasis recovery. I will also do a video on that as well. These are good things. And studying with her, I learned a lot about recovering from C-sections, because C-sections can cause a lot of scar tissue. And that scar tissue can cause your internal organs internal organs to be pulled towards the scar tissue. Yes, okay, I see your comments. Okay, so somebody's writing about how the C-section went well, but they were traumatized, but they're happy that they have a healthy baby. Yes, that's many women. Many women are traumatized by childbirth, and childbirth trauma is akin to rape trauma, okay? There actually were women calling rape hotlines who had childbirth trauma, and it can be similar. And then you have women who have both. How horrible is that, okay? And a lot of it is unnecessary. And these are all things that that I've been studying for years, observing for years, working with women, studying why this is, and I have a lot to say about it, and I will in the upcoming weeks. I will say that, definitely if you have had C-sections and, misplaced uteruses, I highly suggest checking out the work of Puanani and Digimama. Unfortunately, because of COVID, she's not doing in-person classes right now, but she does have online classes. It's not as good as working with her in person. I've worked with her. I've taken her classes many times. I've assisted her with clients. Don't know anybody like her, but I highly suggest studying with her. So, but the clients that have had C-sections that wanted to have a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean, it's like illegal in some states, okay? They tell women, no, once you've had a C-section, you have to keep having C-sections. And I have had a couple of clients who had successful vaginal births after C-sections. They were working with eggs. One of them, remember she told me, I don't know, she's probably had 5 or 6 kids by now. But I remember her telling me, yes, in Digimama, I'll write it below in this video. I remember her telling me that, her own father told her, her own dad told her that the reason why she was having C-sections was because she had issues opening up. Now, that is the issue with some women. There's a lot of different reasons. Some women have C-sections that's totally unnecessary. Sometimes it's because of what the hospital has done. When you give birth in a hospital, they're constantly sticking their fingers inside, trying to check your cervix. There's really no reason for that. And if a woman who doesn't have sexual trauma can be uncomfortable and close up. But if you are a woman who does have sexual trauma, that's super triggering, okay? I have a lot to say about that, but, working eggs in general have, the shape of an egg, just like whether it's a chicken egg, a stone egg, eggs in general absorb negative energy and transform the negative energy into positive, okay? Transforms it. Eggs are transformation symbols. Easter is coming up on Sunday. Easter is a celebration of the goddess Ishtar, Oestre. Oestre sounds like estrogen, right? Eggs are the symbol for Easter, and eggs symbolize rebirth, transformation, okay? They're goddess symbols all day. Also, the rabbit is associated with Easter. And what do rabbits do? They have sex and reproduce like crazy. I have a lot of cute little bunny rabbits hopping around my neighborhood in Chicago. They're so cute. I love them. But all they do is reproduce. And they're fertility symbols. Easter is a celebration of the spring equinox, the fertility of the land. And, in pagan traditions, earth-based traditions, people celebrated that with also sex, okay? So a lot of times there were orgies around this time. Do your research. Check it out. It has nothing to do with Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus. So no offense to those of you who believe that, but that's not the true story of Easter. And you can look it up yourself and see, okay? And so this is the reason why I think it's also important, goddess symbology. Somebody asked, yes, I do still sell eggs and I do still teach class. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. So I will say at the moment, I do have rose quartz eggs, which I just showed. I have sunstone, and I have green aventurine. I have carnelian, okay? I have picture jasper and peach moonstone. And I have amethyst and rainbow moonstone, and also obsidian. Okay, that's what I have in stock right now. You can see the eggs I have in stock and the prices if you go to my IG page at Nani Eggs. That's at NANIEGGS, okay? And I will be posting, because I will be having a sale on my classes and my eggs for this Easter holiday. So I'm going to be posting that on my Nani Eggs page tomorrow, so look out for that. Okay, like I need a graphic artist. Sometimes I would post things sooner, but it's like I have to make the flyer. I gotta be my own photographer. I have to be my own graphic artist, and I'm really just a nerd. You know, I'm really just a body scientist. I'm not really all those other things, but to keep up with the social media, I have to do that. So because I haven't posted that stuff yet, I haven't got a chance to do it. It'll be posted tomorrow. And in terms of my classes, I do have online video classes. I have a cosmic egg video class. You guys can also feel free to hit my inbox here, hit my inbox on IG at Nani Eggs. You can also email me directly at Nani Eggs, but the email address, Nani Eggs, has a Z at the end. Okay, NANIEGGZ at gmail.com. And I'll write all that below. You can email me there, and I can also send you more info. I do have an online class. I really want to teach in-person classes because, you know, the online class just focuses on the egg work, also breast massage, and incorporating the breast along with the egg work is important because our heart is where our breast chakra is. And it's really important to open up the heart and connect the heart with our sacred center. And so it's really centered around that. But what was I going to say? Somebody asked what my thought is on water birth. These are all good questions. I think water births are good. I'm going to answer. These are all good ideas for future videos too. But it's like, okay, so my in-person class, my sensual strength training class combined 3 components. One was the egg work. 2, it was using dances of the African diaspora that involve hip movements. So dances from Haiti, from Dominican Republic, from the Congo, from Cuba, from Brazil, from Colombia. It could be down south, like dances that involve intense hip movements from the African diaspora, Congo-based dances, which is very different than West African. Because most of our blood supply runs through our hips, and we store trauma in our hips. We store trauma in our bodies, period. This is why shaking and dancing is so good, but we definitely store it in our wombs. And as women, if we don't heal that before we bring life into this world, we can pass those traumas on, okay? And it can come up in childbirth, as I said, right? So that's the other. And then also, when it comes to childbirth, it's important if you have flexibility in your hips and you're able to move your hips and you have that connection, then it's easier also to work the baby out, okay? Same thing is true with the eggs. Working with the eggs is not just about tight vaginal muscles. Oh, my tight. No. It's about having elastic vaginal muscles, elasticity. Meaning if the muscles are this tight and they're stretched out to here, they'll go right back to here again. If something is this tight and it's stretched out to here and it only goes back to here, then it's not elastic. It's loss of elasticity, okay? So the eggs help to maintain elasticity in the vaginal muscles. It also helps women to be able to connect and relax, because in labor, a woman has to surrender and open up and relax. Not like most people, it's natural when they're in pain to tense up and constrict when they're in pain. But that's not what you want to do in labor. You want to relax into it, allow it to open up, okay? And a lot of midwives have told me that, you know, a lot of women don't know the difference between contracting and relaxing in childbirth. So working with the eggs can really help that, okay? Also, it helps women who have painful menstrual cycles, heavy menstrual cycles, but so does the womb massage and getting the womb centered. I have a video where I speak about that, and I'm going to post it below in this YouTube channel. I'm going to try to also post it on the IGs. I recorded it like probably 5 years ago. But again, everything I learned about that, I learned from Pakistani and Digimama, okay? She is the truth. And she has birthed 4 babies, okay? I think like 3 of them are unassisted, okay? 4 babies at home. She's very knowledgeable. So, the eggs also help with, if women who have orgasmic issues, it makes you more sensitive, okay? And if you don't have orgasmic issues, your orgasms will just become stronger. And if you do have orgasmic issues, it'll help you start having orgasms. And, you know, it makes you a woman more sensitive. It increases the blood flow, the nerve supply, the innervation of the vaginal muscles. It also helps to stimulate the Bartholin glands that secrete mucus when we're aroused. This is important because it also maintains the health of our vaginal canals, okay? It also maintains the health. And it helps to prevent infections. And as we age, as a woman ages, the vaginal muscles tend to atrophy, which means they tend to go from being thick and meaty to being thin and dry and cracking easily, and then sex becomes very painful to a woman, and she doesn't want to have sex at all. And the vagina, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's true with the vagina like it is for the rest of the body, and that's what happens. But that can also happen to women after childbirth as well, because of hormonal things. You get very dry, lose your sex drive. Some women, lose their libido after childbirth for other reasons as well. It's a whole, it's a whole long list of reasons, but the egg helps you to get your mojo back, okay? Maintain the wetness and get your libido, which is very important for your chi and your life force, okay? So the egg is good for women of all ages, okay? Whether you're having sex or not, whether you have sex with men or not. So it's not, if you're a lesbian and you don't even have sex with men, you might be thinking, what do I need it for? No, it's still good for you anyway, because it helps with your health and it helps with your sexual pleasure, whether or not, independent of men. Yes, if you have male lovers, men do notice a difference. I've known many couples over the years where the men already liked having sex with their woman prior to the eggs, but after she started working with the eggs, every man reported how much more amazing it became. Because also, a woman can learn how to have more control. So when we contract our vaginal muscles in different ways, men feel it, okay, and it's pleasurable to them, but it's also pleasurable to us. Because when we orgasm, what happens? Our vaginal muscles contract. So if you just start contracting your muscles on your own, it also builds up sexual energy, okay? And there was one more thing I was going to say. Darn it. Oh, it also helps a woman's vaginal muscles just hug more on something, okay? And that's all I think and I could talk about this for hours, but I just wanted to, give that brief introduction about the egg to people who are not familiar with it. Like I said, I've been teaching women since 2007. I have lots of videos on YouTube where I talk about it, and I'll try to post a lot of them below on this YouTube, because I'm doing this on IG, but I'm going to repost it on my YouTube page, and I'm going to try to post a number of the links below so you can check out other videos where I talk about sizes and how to choose them. They also can be drilled and non-drilled. Like this one is drilled and this one is not. The drilled is to put a string through it for easy removal, which is not necessary because it won't get stuck, but some women just for peace of mind want to be able to easily pull it out. Also, the drilled hole is for, the string can also be used for more advanced exercises like vaginal weightlifting. I have videos about vaginal weightlifting as well. So, feel free to check out all those videos and you can learn a lot more. And so, yeah, I just wanted to do this video here just to talk about this really quick. I do think that every woman should be working with them. I think that it's super important. And to any women who are listening to this video who have worked with the eggs, please feel free to share your experiences and your 2 cents. I do have a video class, but I also have a Patreon page, which is Mystical Egg Journeys. I'll post that below, where I'll be posting weekly classes for women, egg classes. But yeah, I can't stress enough, whether or not you plan on having a baby or not, egg work helps, okay? And it's important to, preparing for and recovering from is something that, somebody asked, what are the origins of working with them? Okay. I learned about, and again, I have YouTube videos where I talk about this, but I'll briefly say this. I learned about it from the Taoist practice. In 2005, I learned about it from Taoism, okay? How I actually learned about it originally, there was a woman, why am I forgetting her name right now? Her name escapes me, but she is a Cuban-Jamaican woman who is in the DC area, and she had a belly dancing school, belly dancers of color. And I can't remember her name at the moment. Sunyata Amen, okay? There was a conference in New York City. I was a grad student at Columbia University at the time, and there was a conference on traditional African spiritual practices. And for 3 days, they had different lectures about a bunch of different things dealing with African spirituality. And she was one of the people that was supposed to speak about these eggs. Now, at the time, I knew about Taoist practices for men, ejaculation control and all of that. And I was actually teaching and working with men, because I do work with men as well. I don't talk about men as much, but I do. Because at the time, I had men with different issues, erection issues and stuff like that, because they were on hypertension medication, diabetes medication, which can cause erection issues in men. So I came across the Taoist stuff for men first, and it didn't talk about women much. She was supposed to do a workshop on the jade egg. This is in 2005. She didn't show up. So I went and like looked on the internet, which the internet barely had anything at the time. But I remember finding a few web pages that had a little bit of information about the jade eggs. And so it made sense to me with my background in exercise science and what I understand about muscle physiology. It made sense. So I got the eggs and started working with it in 2005. So from 2005 to 2007, I worked with it. Started teaching women in 2007. Then I came across Saida, a woman in Hawaii, who she wrote a book, Emergence of the Sensual Woman, which I thought was a good book, but that book doesn't talk about pregnancy at all, doesn't talk about childbirth at all. There's a lot of things that I learned, you know, about the eggs, like working with more than one. I started working with 2 and 3, sometimes 4 eggs. I don't do that too much now, but I used to. And at the time, people were only talking about jade, okay? Everybody was talking about jade. I started working with different crystals and stones, and then the woman that I was working with also started doing that. I learned a lot from going to Costa Rica because I thought, you know, Saida said in her book that women shouldn't work with obsidian until they worked with jade for a number of years. And I believed that until I went to Costa Rica and met women in Costa Rica who were working with obsidian. And then I found out about a woman in Mexico. Okay, my Costa Rican students told me about a woman in Mexico who wrote a book on obsidian eggs, okay, and working with obsidian eggs. And I'm sure this woman knew nothing about Taoism. I also had a black woman client in Atlanta who told me she grew up in California, and it was a French woman when she was a little girl who had given her an egg and was trying to teach her about it, okay? And also, so I'm trying to read the comments and talk. Also, darn it. I'm very much into, if you look at my other page, Renaissance Amazon, you see I'm very much into ancient art, pre-colonial art. I feel like the truth is in the art, okay? And I told you, as a student of Dances of the African Diaspora, I studied, you know, the diaspora, but Haiti has had the biggest influence on me. I feel like the medicine and Haitian folkloric dance is something that I could speak about for the rest of the day, okay? But I'm just going to say that one of my favorite dances is a dance called Yan Valu. It's a serpent dance that's associated with a deity called Dambala, who's also associated with the egg, you know? And so this egg symbology and the cosmic egg, I don't feel like just belong to the Taoists. Like, there's a lot of different things that I've picked up over the years, and it's too much for me to talk about right now, but it will be in my book that I finally have to get done. So I don't think it's just from there, okay? And I have my reasons and proof for that. But I learned about it first in the Taoist tradition. And then over the years, as I learned different things, you know, I started incorporating my own practice, and also from just what I know about the body and muscles and stuff like that, okay? So... yeah. And so my sensual exchange training class, so I was saying that one part is the eggs, another part is Dances of the Diaspora, again, to get women to connect to their hips, which helps with moving sexual energy, Kundalini energy. A lot of people talk about Kundalini yoga, but Kundalini yoga is stagnant. You're just sitting there, not moving your hips. That's not, it's way more, if you're trying to move Kundalini energy, you need to move and, you know, have flexibility in your hips and let it go, and your spine, okay? Let it go up your spine, not just sitting there being stagnant. No. Okay? And this comes into play with many different things in life. So that was, you know, the third component was teaching women why it's important to strength train. Okay? Because I am a strength and conditioning specialist, and which is above a personal trainer. Personal trainers just deal with like base level stuff. And I'm not going to go into a whole thing about what a strength and conditioning coach is, because again, I'll be talking forever, but I do have videos where I talk about that. Strength and conditioning specialist is on a higher level, okay? But as that is briefly said, I will say that it's important for women to strength train. A lot of women think they're afraid of lifting weights, and they think that it's going to make them big and bulky, and that's totally not true. I'm seeing some good comments on his Instagram page. Someone wrote, that makes perfect sense. The island of Hispaniola received the most varied ethnicities during their slave trade. Their sacred medicine is a combination of damn near all of Africa. Yeah, and the Americas. Because Haitian voodoo is not just African. It also has huge Native, First Nations, Indigenous, Arawak components in it as well. And people who also follow me know I'm very much talking about Afro-Indigenous traditions. So when I say Afro-Indigenous, I'm talking about African-derived and First Nations in the Americas derived, okay? They both have very potent medicine. And the Congo, to me, is where it's really funky. It's like the sacred center for real, okay? And all the popular dances in the diaspora come from the Congo. When I say in the diaspora, I mean in the Americas. Whether it's champeta in Colombia, whether it's rumba in Cuba, whether it's merengue in DR, whether it's bomba in Puerto Rico, you know, New Orleans got Congo Square, okay? It's the Congo. All these things that I'm saying could be like a whole nother lecture, and I would be talking all day. But these are the things I teach in my sensual strength training class. And so it was those three components. Like in the strength training, teaching women like how to strength train properly, why it's important, okay? Because a lot of women think, oh, I'm going to look like a man if I... No, strength training is important. For women who are trying to get a bigger booty, they want thicker thighs, you want to gain weight, you want to be thicker, you need to strength train. For the women who feel like, oh, I have too much body fat, I want to speed up my metabolism and burn fat, you need to strength train. For the women who are like, oh, I have bad knees, I got a bad back, you need to strength train. Or if you want to not have bad knees and a bad back and messed up shoulders, you need to strength train, okay? If you want to maintain your metabolism as you age, you need to strength train, okay? And I have a whole video about that as well. So that's what my sensual strength training class is about, those three components. I really want to teach another class soon. In New York, I used to teach it for 4 weeks, twice a week. When I would go to other cities, I would teach it on a weekend for like 5 hours, Saturday and Sunday. When I taught in Costa Rica, when I taught retreats, it would be like 4 or 5 days for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours each day. So I would like to, I think in person is so much more effective, but because of COVID, you know, like, also if you follow my work, you know that I'm not terrified of COVID. Oh, sorry, somebody's calling me. I meant to turn my computer off. I apologize for that, messing up the video. But I would like to teach an in-person class. Right now, you know, I'm from New York City, but I live, hold on. I'm from New York City, but I live in Chicago, okay? And I spend a lot of time in DC. So right now for in-person class, if you're in New York City, if you're in Chicago, if you're in DC, or those areas, it could be DC, it could be Baltimore, it could be Philly, because that's also, you know, between New York and DC. If you're in those areas and you're interested in me teaching a class in the upcoming future, please let me know, because I'm definitely down to, but it's just, you know, we can do it outside. But it's just everybody's so afraid of COVID. I think that the in-person class is really important. But I'm going to end this video now because I ordered some food. And I don't know if that's who was calling me or not. And I don't want, you know, so look out for the sales on my other IG page at Nani Eggs. And this video will be posted on my YouTube page, and I'll post other videos below where I talk more in depth about these things. And more videos soon on other topics, okay? Especially as it pertains to women in childbirth, all right? So I hope you all, yes, I've taught in Los Angeles before. And this, someone asked me where I got this from. It's made by a wonderful woman in New Orleans named Julie Banks. She made this. It's actually a Yoni and a clitoris symbol, okay? So when people think of the clit, they think of just right here. But the clit is actually internal, and it's not just right here. It's my food. Sorry. Bye, people.